Hello, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial. The purpose of this is to briefly explain our new county writing rubrics. And first I'd like to thank the teams that worked on this, and especially Angela Dean, who developed the concept and piloted it last year. While I will be using primarily 5th and 8th grade for demonstration purposes, this does apply to all rubrics K-12. Okay, let's start with our state rubric and the problems that we've always had associated with it. The state asks us to score student work in 2 reporting categories now. Composing and written expression are together. They used to be separate, but they are together now. And usage and mechanics, which used to stand alone and still does. They ask us to score these, however, on a 1 through 4 rubric. 4 being the best possible, 1 being the worst possible. And whenever we've practiced scoring and done our Pearson perspective and try to get our heads around it and doing a good job with it, we always run into the papers that are not really a 4 but are a very strong 3, and the teachers always express a desire to be able to give someone a 3.89 or some variation or gradation, if you will, of the rubric itself. So what we developed was a new rubric that will allow us those variations, and I'll explain that what we did actually aligns exactly with the state, because the state doesn't even really use their own 1 through 4 scale. I'm going to start with showing you a student report. Now this is a very bright person who has scored overall pass advance on their writing. This is an 8th grade student report that we get after a student has taken the writing SOL in 5th grade, 8th grade, and end of course. They all look very similar. You're looking here at the multiple choice, or the TEIs, and over here is the short paper. We are focusing on the short paper today. The total possible points earned for the short paper is not a 4, it's 24. And that's because the 2 reporting categories are expanded from a 4 to a 16 in the composing written expression and an 8 in the usage and mechanics. When the composing and written expression were separate, each one would be worth 8. So when they combined them, they doubled the amount of the possible points in composing and written expression. So now you have total possible points of 24, 16 in one, 8 in the other. As you can see, this young person who scored 580 overall, passed advance, got a 16 out of a possible 16 in composing and written expression, got an 8 out of 8 in usage and mechanics. The only points that were missed were over here in the multiple choice. And out of 24 possible, 22 correct. Okay, let's look at someone who has a little different view of this. This student did not pass advanced. This student passed proficient. And what you'll see here is out of a possible 24 points, the points earned were 19. Composing and written expression, 12 out of 16. Usage and mechanics, 7 out of 8. For an overall score of 476, 21 out of 24 on the multiple choice. And I'll show you one more before we move on to our new rubric. This student did not pass. 393 on the scaled score, 17 out of 24 possible points, 12 on written expression, 5 on usage and mechanics, 14 out of 24 on the multiple choice. So now we have an understanding of how the state looks at the overall paper and comes up with a score that way. So what I'd like to show you now is our grade 8 writing rubric. Again, the fifth, actually K through EOC, look very similar and work very similarly. Okay, our rubric has the two reporting categories over here on the left, usage and mechanics at the bottom, composing and written expression at the top. Our scores are out of 16 on the top and 16 on the bottom. I'll explain that in just a minute. What this does, this breaks down the individual components of the writing rubric: central idea, writing for a purpose, plan, digressions, sentence style, variation, precise and descriptive vocabulary, so forth and so on. Down here it uses the same verbiage for the state's usage and mechanics: little or no, inconsistent, reasonable control, consistent control of the usage and mechanics components. So what this allows a teacher to do, two things. First of all, the individual components of the reporting category can be scored independently. So you can give them a strong score in central idea, but a weaker score in supporting details. And then you can explain to the student what they need to be able to, what they need to work on to be able to improve, instead of giving it one total score for the reporting category where they don't really understand where they went wrong. The second thing that's accomplished with this rubric is the gradation, if you will, or the finer points that you're allowed to give the student. If their central idea is good but really not quite accomplished, you could give them an 8 instead of a 2. This column would have represented a 2 normally. So they're almost, they're almost into this category over here where their score will be better, but not quite. Or let's say they have good supporting details, really good supporting details, but they're not quite exemplary. You could give them a 12 over here. Or if they're exemplary but not strongly exemplary, you could give them a 13. So that gives you some wiggle room and some ability to show the student where they're strong, where they're weak, and how they improve throughout the year. Now, I told you that I was going to explain to you why this is 16 down here. This piece right here, we did not want to change the finer points on our scale. So what this does, as you're going down and you're scoring the paper, you see that it's a good, strong, central idea, but it's not exemplary. We're going to give it an 11. In this category here, let's say that it is exemplary. Looks like they have a specific purpose, they've got a good intent, they understand their audience. So we're going to give them a 13, which represents exemplary. So forth and so on. We're going to go down through here and we're going to give them the scores that we thought that they earned on these particular components. And I'll just flash on down to the bottom here. We're scoring the usage and mechanics. We've looked at it. We understand what we want to give them. They're really struggling in this particular control of sentence formation. So we're going to give them a 7 here. Subject-verb agreement, verb tense, possessives, plurals, all of that, pretty good, but not great. So they land on a 10 there. And the punctuation is reasonable, but again, not exemplary. So we're going to give them a 12 on that. Now, if you were paying attention, you would see this bold number here changing as I change the numbers. This is an average of all of the components in the reporting category. Same on the bottom. This is an average of all the components of the reporting category. These two numbers are combined just like the state does to come up with a total prompt score. This prompt score, however, is not 9.7 plus 12.9. The formula in the spreadsheet here divides this in half, which would represent 8 out of as a possible best score. So it's half of the 16, which is exactly representative of the state's way that they score it. So I'm sorry if this is confusing, but you just need to trust that this number is exactly right. Then you can put this score and apply it to a scale to come up with a grade or a score, or however you want to do it for your prompted writing. Originally we were going to put in a formula that would grade this automatically for you, but after feedback on some of the test runs we've had with this, the teachers expressed an interest in being able to come up with their own scale because they don't want to penalize students who are growing, and they don't want to be able to be pinned into a particular score if the students are new at something. They just wanted to be able to develop their own. But your total prompt score is accurate. How you apply a grade to that is entirely up to the teacher's discretion. So you can type the student's name in here, you can type your name here, school, date, you can do the prompt number or title right here. You can save these to a file and keep them, or you can print them and then move on to the next student and not save a digital copy. It's entirely up to you how you work with this. But there are folks in your building who understand this part of it, who I've worked with and trained to understand the rubric and understand how to apply it. So feel free to call me or check with someone in your building who's familiar with it, but play around with it. It is what we call a living document. I have them posted on Blackboard. So if you see something you'd like changed, or you find some sort of typo or some error or something happens to the formula, just let me know. I can fix it, and then the master copy on Blackboard is fixed. So please contact me. I'm Joe Legault, Coordinator of English, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this today. Thank you.